He said something cruel, then laughed right after, like the laugh could erase it. You laughed too. Not because it was funny, because agreeing felt safer than naming what just happened. That moment, the one where you talk yourself out of what you just saw, isn't a one-time slip. It's a pattern your mind built on purpose, and there's a reason it keeps choosing comfort over truth. You'll recognize this from somewhere specific. A coworker who jokes about your work in front of the team, a friend who cancels plans the same week you needed them most, a partner who explains away the explanation. In each case, some part of you clocked it instantly, and some other part of you, faster and quieter, decided not to. That second part is the one this video is actually about. Psychologists call this cognitive dissonance reduction. When two beliefs collide, like this person cares about me and this person just hurt me, your mind doesn't sit in the discomfort. It resolves it fast, usually by editing the second belief until it fits the first. You don't lie to yourself out of weakness. You do it because your brain is wired to prefer a coherent story over an accurate one. Sit with that for a second, because it reframes the whole thing. You weren't fooled. You were managing something, keeping your internal world stable while the external one cracked. That's not naivete. That's a coping mechanism doing exactly what it was built to do. Think back to the version of you that learned this first. Not the adult one, the kid one. The one sitting at the dinner table, watching a parent's mood shift mid-sentence, learning in real time which observations were safe to say out loud and which ones made the room go cold. Nobody sat you down and taught you to dismiss red flags. You absorbed it, one quiet dinner at a time. That's where the wiring starts. Developmental psychologists describe this as a child's nervous system adapting to an unpredictable environment by lowering its own threat sensitivity, essentially turning the volume down on its own alarm system, because a loud alarm in a house where nothing changes just becomes exhausting noise. The child doesn't decide to stop noticing. The noticing gets quieter automatically as a form of self-protection. And here's the part most people miss. That adaptation doesn't expire when childhood ends. It just changes outfits. The kid who learned to downplay tension at the dinner table becomes the adult who downplays tension in a relationship, a job, a friendship. Anywhere the cost of speaking up once felt higher than the cost of staying quiet. So when you ignore a red flag now, you're not failing to see it. You're running a script that was once survival in a context where it no longer needs to be. There's a researcher angle that almost never gets mentioned alongside this topic, and it explains the timing of why you ignore the flag specifically in the moment you do. Social psychologists studying motivated reasoning found that people don't process threatening information neutrally. They process it through the lens of what they currently need to be true. If you need this job to work, you'll reinterpret your manager's dismissiveness as busy. If you need this relationship to work, you'll reinterpret distance as needing space. The need arrives first. The reasoning follows it like a lawyer building a case for a verdict that's already been decided. That's the mechanism, not blindness, motivated blindness, which is a very different thing, because it means the part of you that ignored the flag wasn't passive. It was working hard in the background to protect something you weren't ready to lose. Here's where it gets uncomfortably specific. Think about your group chat, the one where you mentioned almost casually something someone did, not as a complaint, as a test. You were checking whether saying it out loud made it feel as real as it had felt in your head. And depending on how your friends responded, you either let yourself believe it or you walked it back within the same conversation. It's probably nothing. That sentence is doing a lot of work. It's not a conclusion, it's a retreat. What you're protecting underneath all of it is usually not the other person. It's your own self-image, the story where you're someone with good judgment, who wouldn't end up here, who saw this coming. Admitting the red flag was real means admitting you missed it, or worse, that you saw it and stayed anyway. So the mind does the cheaper math. It edits the flag instead of the self-image. Smaller cost, faster relief. This is also why red flags tend to get noticed retroactively. Weeks, months, sometimes years later. in a single unprompted memory that suddenly makes sense. That delay isn't forgetfulness. It's your nervous system waiting until the relationship, the job, the friendship is over, until there's nothing left to protect before it lets the full picture back in. None of this makes you someone who lacks judgment. It makes you someone whose judgment was, for a while, in competition with a more urgent priority: staying attached, staying hopeful, staying inside a version of events you could live with. That's not a character flaw. That's what attachment costs sometimes, a temporary blindness in exchange for connection that felt necessary at the time. The reframe isn't trust your gut more, because that advice assumes the gut was ever silent. It wasn't. You heard it. The work was never about hearing it louder. It's about shortening the distance between hearing it and believing it. That gap is where the damage actually happens, not in the noticing, in the negotiating. So if you're sitting here replaying a moment right now, a comment, a pattern, a thing someone did that you reasoned away in real time, that's not proof you're bad at reading people. It's proof you were paying very close attention and decided, for reasons that made sense to you then, that the safer story was worth more than the accurate one. That instinct kept you afloat for a long time. You're just allowed to retire it now. You're not broken for missing it. You weren't missing it. You were surviving it, one quiet dinner table at a time, long before you had a name for what you were doing. If this sounds like something you've lived, you're probably not the only one in your life carrying it. Maybe send this to the person who'd understand it without you having to explain.